What is going on, traders? We got a lot to discuss. Before we get into anything, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Really appreciate the support. Let's get into the video. Now, today was interesting. And when I say interesting, I mean in a sketchy kind of way. Now, if you're new to the channel, then you should know that short term, I'm pretty bearish on the market. I've been saying this for like the past 2 weeks, and so far, been pretty much on the money. Prior to that, I've been very bullish for like months and months. You can check my previous videos, but I've been very bullish up until now. So, in case you assume that I'm some perma bear or anything like that, I absolutely am not. I'm still bullish long term on the market, but as of now, short term, I do expect more downside. But that goes without saying that I do expect a retest. Okay, I do expect a retest to the upside. I don't think we're just gonna, keep falling. But the market doesn't care what I think. And that is why I say things look a bit sketchy. And I'm not really convinced. Now, in the Discord, I did say my target on the SPY was 502 today. This was when it was around about four. You can check here. It was about 497 when I was saying that. And yeah, SPY ran up to 502. We took 500 calls at around 497. So congratulations to all the traders that took that play. But it's really tough to tell where we're trying to go from here. Now, you're probably looking at this and you're like, oh, a bull flag. That's great. Okay. We're breaking out of it. And sure, that's fine. But like I said in the Discord, I would like to see us close. I would have liked to see us close above 500. And we didn't get that. Now, 499 is okay. It's just okay. All right. It doesn't mean the end of the world. It doesn't mean we're going to continue back down or anything like that. It's just okay. Again, I would have liked to see us close above 500 because that means we're back in the supply and demand zone, or we close within the supply and demand zone, which gives us a, a better chance of seeing more upside. Now, if you paid attention to my previous videos, 504 is our golden ticket. I've said this in the Discord as well, or at least I told a member this. 504. We want to see 504. We break above 504, we're heading towards 507 easily. The highest I'm looking at right now is about 509, 510 range to the upside. So in my last video, I told you guys, or last two videos, I told you guys when it comes to patterns and breaking out, one thing you don't want to see is a rollover. And no, this is not us rolling over. This can just simply be a retest to the top of the pattern. But if we start creating, and let me actually map this out for you guys so you can have a better understanding. But if we go from here and we just stop here, or we don't even get back in the supply and demand zone, and maybe we just do one of these and then we start seeing weaker candles, if we start rolling over, that's very bad. Very, very bad. And I've shown you guys examples of this in previous videos as well on what a rollover will look like. Hopefully, I still got it up on Tesla. I don't think I do. Yeah, still got it up on Tesla. So this will be a good example of that, where you break out and then you start rolling over and it gets really bad. That's what we don't want to see. If you're bullish, that's what you don't want to see on the SPY. Okay, you want us to see us get out of this retest area, get back into the supply and demand zone here, and then continue higher to at least 504. We break above 504. 507 should come pretty easy because we've been in this area before. These guys are going to panic here. Remember, wicks tell you where sellers and buyers are. They're going to panic here. They're going to get stopped out of their position. We get back inside the supply and demand zone, and then we go higher. So that's what we want to see as far as upside if you're bullish. All right. You don't want to see a rollover. Because again, like I told you guys in the last two videos, when you roll over, you tend to go under the pattern. Okay. And that can lead us all the way to like 480 or something like that. So that's what happens when you typically roll over and you start heading back inside the pattern. Chances are you're heading much lower. So that's what we don't want to see. What we want to see is us to get back into this pattern, get above these guys right here, head towards 504, 503.5 range, retest about 500, and then break out further to the upside. Okay. Now, if you're bearish, by all means, you definitely want to see a rollover happen. That would be great for you. Okay. So the good news is that historically, Tuesdays typically continue what Mondays started. Now, what do I mean by that? So Mondays usually have low volume, right? Whether they're bearish or bullish days. And we didn't see much action today. I mean, it was, it was decent, right? We went from like what 494 to about 502. So that's pretty good action. And usually Tuesdays continue that in a bigger move. Another historical thing is that when we have events like CPI or GDP or any of those type of events coming up, the market tends to run into those events. And I believe we do have GDP. Let me actually check. Forex Factory. So Wednesday we don't really have anything Wednesday. That's cool. All right. So Thursday is when we have unemployment claims, and then we have GDP at 8:30 Eastern. And the market has a habit of running into these events to the upside. So that is somewhat of a glimmer of hope if you're bullish on the market. Okay. But what's bugging me, okay, and I'm going to show you guys this on multiple charts, what's really bothering me. Oh, and one more thing, actually. I don't want to get right into the bearish side yet. Another thing is that we have a inverted bullish hammer pattern, which is a bullish pattern. And I always tell you guys, if it looks like the pattern, assume that it is the pattern until proven otherwise. If you don't know what that looks like, it will look something like this. Okay, inverted hammer pattern. It doesn't have to look perfect. Again, if it looks like the pattern, assume that it is until proven otherwise. So inverted hammer pattern, and I even marked out examples if they're still here. Yep. So I even marked out examples of the past on similar looking patterns. So for example, you got one here, pretty similar. This is the 4 hour time frame, by the way. You got another one here. You got a little small one here as well. And as you guys can see, we get more upside anytime these patterns form. So that's another good thing as well. And they all don't look exactly the same. That's why, again, if it looks like the pattern, assume that it is until proven otherwise. So we're going to assume that this is a inverted hammer pattern. And normally, anytime I show you guys a pattern on any chart, it ends up playing out. Hopefully, you remember that hangman pattern. That was insane. Um, Crazy that I didn't get more likes off that video, but it is what it is. But anytime I show you guys a pattern, typically it does play out. That's not to brag or anything. That's just normally how it goes. So I'm going to assume that this is an inverted hammer pattern. I would have liked to see it form somewhere down here. That would have been amazing. But for now, this could be a sign that we see more upside heading into tomorrow. Okay. Now, this is where we get into the bad side of things. Okay. And this is why I say this could be a bounce or a trap. And normally I'm pretty confident on what direction we're going, but things are pretty weird. All right. So first things first, we're under the supply and demand zone on the daily time frame. Not just these are daily supply and demand zones. As you guys can see, these guys over here they formed the supply and demand zone. So yeah, we need to get past these guys. Again, 504. Hopefully you guys can see this. 504. We want to get past these guys at 504 in order to see more upside. And then we get into this very tight range as well between 504 and 507. So we need news. I think it's pretty obvious that we need some type of news. Now, let's talk about the triple Qs because I think I dragged the SPY long enough. The good side about triple Qs, or the good thing about triple Qs, is that we are above 416, which was a level that I was looking at this morning that I wanted us to see get above. Now, we're in between these two supply and demand zones. Okay. And that's kind of annoying. That's very annoying. I would like to see a move towards 424 if we are looking at a bounce. And again, we have another inverted hammer pattern, as you guys can see, just like we saw on the SPY. So this is a bullish pattern and is stronger because it's coming off a downtrend. So that is good, right? And as you guys can see, we're kind of going up after hours, nothing crazy, but this is a good sign for more upside. And our next move is obviously for 21. We want to see a break above 421. Me personally, I would like 422 instead, and then we can see a move towards 424. We get back into the supply and demand zone, we can head back towards 428.5, and then after that, we can be looking at as high as 433. I know some traders are like saying 436 and 438. I don't want to be too optimistic just yet, but short term, I just want to see a move back into the supply and demand zone at around 423, 424 range. Until then, really tough to be very confident in more upside here. But as long as we stay above 416 on the triple Qs, I think we are completely fine for now. I wouldn't say completely, but we're somewhat fine for now. Again, we need news. It's obvious that the market needs news because anytime we're in between two supply and demand zones, that means the market is waiting on something. Okay, whether it's Iran, whether it's GDP, I don't know, but that means the market is waiting on something. That news can happen tomorrow. It can happen Thursday. I don't know. Maybe Tesla earnings. I don't know. I don't know. But regardless, whatever news we're waiting on, that's typically what happens when we're waiting on news. Typically, when we're waiting on news, we're in between two supply and demand zones. Wow, that took way longer to explain. But hopefully you guys get the point, right? But if we start to break down, 413 is the key. Well, 416 is the key level I'm looking at. After that, you're looking at 413. After 413, you're looking at 411, 410 range. And then you guys know my bearish target. My target is 404 on the triple Qs. Doesn't mean we have to see that right away. Again, I do expect some type of retest, but the market does not care about my expectations. But ideally, I would like to see a retest to the upside. That way, I can enter some puts and be able to benefit off the next leg down because I do believe another leg down is coming. So, that is the good side and the bad side of things as far as the triple Qs and the SPY. Another bad side, okay, is unusual wells. This is where it's really scary. As you guys can see, a lot of puts came in. I mean, a lot of puts just came in, and it's absolutely 425 puts, 397, 425, April 25, April 24, 413 puts. I don't know if you guys can see the premium, but they're high. They're very high. A lot of puts came in. And ideally, I would like to say these are hedges, but there's hardly any calls. Now, there is a 421 call that expires tomorrow, so ideally, I think we open up bullish tomorrow and then we start seeing these guys play out at the end of the day. That is a possibility on the table. And even on the SPY, you're seeing the same exact thing where there's a lot of puts coming in. You got 501 calls. Well, those expired today. You got 506 calls, but the premium is like very like low for in my opinion. It's low in my opinion. But you got 496 puts for April 25th, 498 puts. I mean, look, it's just blood. Blood, blood, blood. It's just red across the board. Majority of these are just all puts. So that is scary. Okay, that's very scary. All right. So that's why I'm saying things are looking very sketchy right now. Okay. NQ. Now NQ is essentially the triple Qs, but it looks sketchy as well. I mean, sure, we closed above 17,000. Well, we didn't close. Well, we did. I guess we kind of closed above 17,300, even though the futures runs all night. But regardless, 17,300 was ideal. We got back into the supply and demand zone. I want to see us get back above at least 17,500, even though I think that level is irrelevant. Let's get rid of this guy so I don't confuse people. But I want us to get above these guys right here. This guy right here at around 17,550. Okay. Until then, I'm pretty much neutral, I want to say. I want to be neutral right now. I don't want to be too bullish. And again, I don't want to be too bearish. I do expect more downside, but I want to see that retest happen. That would be absolutely great. But again, the market doesn't care what I want. But if we look at the daily time frame, we are still below the supply and demand zone. Okay. Now, on the bright side here, if you look at the daily time frame, there's another pattern here. There's an inside bar pattern. I think this was on another. I think this was on triple Qs as well. Yeah, inside bar pattern. So I mean, they're both the same thing essentially, right? And inside bar pattern looks something like this, and this will be the bullish pattern. This is the bearish pattern. This is the bullish pattern. All right. So that's something, right? That's a good sign I think. I don't really trade this pattern a lot. I think I mentioned it in another video, and it did eventually play out. The thing about inside bar patterns, they take a few days to play out. And I mean, I think that's obvious. That goes without saying when you're on a daily time frame that you expect things to take a few days to play out. So that is a thing inside bar patterns do, where they just like kind of consolidate first, and then you see the move happen. That was hideous, but you guys get the idea. But yeah, it's an inside bar pattern. So that is a bullish pattern coming off a downtrend. But again, I want us to get back into these supply and demand zones for me to feel comfortable. All right. ES. ES, I mean, kind of the same thing. It kind of looks like an inside bar pattern. I mean, kind of assume that it is until it isn't. But the same thing applies with ES. We're sitting in between two supply and demand zones. Again, I think we're just waiting on news. Whatever that news is, I don't know. But right now, it's pretty obvious that we are waiting on news as far as the market because across the board, we're just sitting in between supply and demand zones everywhere. Okay. So that is concerning. Now, what I would like to see on the ES is us to get above 50.80. That's what I would like to see. We get above 50.80, we're back in this range, we're back in the supply and demand zone. There's hope for a retest to the upside or more of a retest. And we are getting somewhat of a higher low. It's not the greatest, but it's there. Okay, it is there. So as you guys can see, we rejected the supply and demand zone at around 50.80, and then we are pretty much sitting in neutral territory. So again, I think we're just waiting on some type of news, whether it's Iran, I don't know. But maybe something comes in tomorrow or over the night. But again, when we're sitting in between two supply and demand zones, that means market makers are waiting for something. All right. So that's my thoughts as far as the market. Do I think we're going to get a bounce? It's 50-50 right now. With the way the put flow is coming in, it looks really scary. Not only that, but we're under major supply demand zone levels. We haven't really broken any key levels to the upside for me to be comfortable with further upside. Now, I want to be transparent. I'm still in those 162 point. We're still in those 162.5 puts for Apple, as well as we are in 505 calls for SPY. Okay, so we closed the 500 calls. We took profit on those at like 550. So we ran from 497 to 500.5, and we took more calls at around 500. Okay, low 500s. So the hope is this plays out, and then we're just going to use Apple as a hedge position. Okay, so the hope is that this pattern right here plays out, and this is just a simple retest, and then we see more upside. Okay, but I did alert the Discord that this is a risky play. Okay, so anytime I alert that it's a risky play, you have to be willing, or I'm willing to accept a loss. And if you take it, then you have to be willing to accept the loss. But majority of the time, risky plays do play out. So we'll see. So Nvidia, not Netflix, Nvidia. So Nvidia, so Nvidia, I would have liked again. I would have liked to see us close above 800. We tried, as you guys can see, we tried. We tried to get out the supply and demand zone at above around 796, but I want to see us get above 800 on Nvidia. We get above 800, I think we're just heading straight to 840, 850 range. All right, pretty straightforward there. As far as downside goes, if we get back below 760, then yeah, Nvidia is heading towards 740. I told you guys my short-term target or bearish target for Nvidia is 740. As far as upside goes, I think we can head as high as 850. I actually drew this move out. I don't know what happened. But as you guys can see, this pattern right here. So the ideal move would be something like this towards about 840, and then we start to break down. Okay. If you don't know, historically, April is the worst month for semiconductors as well, and then May is the best month for semiconductors, like 90% of the time. So that's a huge percentage. Um, but yeah, that's what I'm looking at as far as Nvidia. If it gets above 800, then that's a very good sign. All right. Netflix. So Netflix, it closed above 550, which is actually really good. But I wanted us to get back in the supply and demand zone, and it tried. And that's the thing, and that's what you're seeing across the board. You're seeing us try to get back into these supply and demand zones, and tried to break above them. But then by the end of the day, we rejected, and now we're just back in neutral territory. So again, that leads me to believe that the market is waiting on news. And I mean, you got these bulls down here just holding Netflix up. So if that's not a sign that we're waiting on news, I don't know what. But if we just so happen to close above 550, 540 on Netflix, then we can head as low as 500 on Netflix. I mean, it's very illiquid, guys. Very illiquid towards the downside on Netflix. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. That would be an insane move. Um, I went over Nvidia. I think I went over a lot of my time, but heading into tomorrow, I would say be cautious. Okay, be very cautious. What's bugging me is unusual wells and just the amount of put flow that came in. We can open up green. We can absolutely open up green. But by the end of the day, I imagine these. I accidentally exited. That's great. But I imagine those puts will want to play out. All right. It's not too often I see hedge funds lose on trades. All right. It's not too often. Not hedge funds, but institutions. But as far as upside goes, mark these supply and demand zones on your chart. When we get back in them, that's when you have a good sign. Key level for SPY, you want us to see us get back above 500, plain and simple. You want us to get rid of these guys right here. Just get rid of these guys. 504. 504 is your golden ticket on the SPY. If you want to play it safe, 504.7. Okay. Until that happens, be cautious. Triple Qs looks actually triple Qs looks better than the SPY in my opinion because it's above 416 above 416. So yeah, you got these bullish hammer patterns. So again, I know as I'm not giving you a really clear answer, but that just goes to show that you probably should just sit on your hands and just wait, okay, for these key levels to be broken. You probably should just wait and see what happens. All right. But that's all I really have. Discord link is in the description below. We do stocks, we do crypto. Eventually, I'll start pushing out crypto videos. Bitcoin, I really don't have much on. I still think Bitcoin until Bitcoin gets above 68,000. I would like to see Bitcoin get above 68,000, and that would be breakout potential there. But until then, I'm still pretty bearish on Bitcoin short term. I think it could go as low as 52K. Next target will be 57K. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, that's all I have. Until the next video, traders, have a good one.